The robot-run factory breathes and clicks through the night like a tidy metal city. Millie patrolled the catwalks with a wrench, tapping rails as if checking the factory's pulse and remembering the siege that had starved the city. She felt the hum through her hooves and believed the machines carried memory in their grooves. She paused above the bakery line and listened to the steady clatter. Millie said, "The place still remembers. Machines hold history in their tracks." Garbanzo guarded a copper still he had smuggled into the maintenance bay, pretending it was a cooling coil. His naval-blue suspenders stretched across his barrel chest as he argued that his moonshine improved aerodynamics. During arguments, he hummed too loudly, as if to drown out the factory's old memories. He snorted whenever Harmony mentioned counseling ghosts. Garbanzo said, "It's a cooling coil, and the mash helps airflow science." He added, "Ethereal clients sound like a billing nightmare." Harmony believed in repair, both mechanical and emotional. She carried a clipboard of safety notes and a softer notebook of community worries, and she had convinced the robots to schedule breathing breaks after shift change sirens. She reminded the others that the community trusted them with the factory switches. She said the city's history would not forgive another season of fear. Harmony said, "We fix machines and we mend people. It's our responsibility, because trust is part of safety." Missy, Shad, and Stan, 3 chickens dressed in midnight blue, had seized the factory security council after the last election. Missy's waistcoat held creases sharp enough to slice rumors, and her pocket ledger bulged with tabs. Shad wore a scarf he kept misplacing while it remained around his neck, and Stan tilted a fedora with a press card that never reported truth. They stood together like a committee hungry for control. Missy said, "The council is in order." Stan said, "Order looks excellent in headlines." Their private motivation was petty and loud. All 3 had once appeared on a reality romance show and been the first sent home, and they carried that humiliation like a stone in a shoe. Missy polished a wilted elimination rose between wax paper and swore no one would vote against her again if fear replaced ballots. Chad and Stan nodded, brittle and eager. Missy said, "No more losses. Fear will secure compliance." Chad said, "We won't be sent home first again." Their plan ran on gears and policy. They reprogrammed assembly bots to mass-produce slingshots with synthetic sinew bands and stuffed them into punch clock dispensers, so every worker left with a weapon. They scheduled mandatory precision drills in the loading bays under the banner of safety practice. Stan printed posters that read, "Courage looks like compliance." Stan said, "Courage looks like compliance." Chad said, "Drills make safety inevitable." Millie saw pallets of slingshots roll past the bakery line and felt her stomach drop. Harmony slapped her tail with a gasp, certain that ghosts were stealing her socks again from the dryer bay, and she refused to meet a therapist barefoot. Frank, Trudy, Arthur, and John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt, all pearl-colored camels on laundry scooters, reported odd static flares near the chute and crossed their humps in concern. Garbanzo wheeled his copper still closer and insisted a spritz of mash stopped static, which everyone tried anyway. Harmony said, "The ghosts are stealing my socks again." Garbanzo said, "A mist of mash fixes static completely warranted science." Missy stepped from a shadow like a filing cabinet on talons and demanded to know if the pigs were obstructing a council safety improvement. Garbanzo replied that arming everyone after a siege was like giving a starving city a cookbook with the pages glued shut. Missy etched a fine for insubordination into her ledger. The corner of her elimination rose crinkled like a warning. Missy said, "Are you obstructing a safety improvement?" Garbanzo said, "Your plan is a cookbook with the pages glued shut." Missy said, "Insubordination noted and fined." Training alarms rang, and robots deployed mechanical bullseyes down every hall. Shad cawed that fear kept the city safe, and Stan narrated the drill like a glamorous emergency, rescuing everyone from thought. Posters quoting the siege appeared, declaring never again, as if slingshots would feed anyone. The momentum tilted toward the chickens. Shad said, "Fear keeps the city safe." Stan said, "Ladies and gentlemen, observe precision, order itself arrives." That night, The pigs tried to stop the line for real. Millie and Harmony fed a patch through a maintenance port to divert the slingshot recipe back to oven belts, while Garbanzo held a flashlight and grumbled that ghosts should settle their own disputes. Chad and Stan found them under the console and shouted sabotage so loudly that the microphone array assigned each pig a siren. The console buzzed with warnings. Garbanzo said, "Let the ghosts settle their own disputes." Chad yelled, "Sabotage." Stan shouted, "Criminal interference." The fallout came fast. Missy triggered a partial lockdown. Drones herded workers into training pens, and every punch clock spat more slingshots like candy. Windows shattered during drills. A robot sprained an arm, and the ledger fined the pigs a week of breaks. The chickens strutted with the swagger of petty tyrants. Missy said, "Lockdown engaged." San said, "Efficiency has costs." Chad said, "Compliance first." The sock problem worsened until Harmony stared at an empty cubby with trembling hands. Trudy reported that laundry tags were registering exits without entries, and John Jacob Jingleheimer-Schmidt quietly said desert spirits liked warm cotton and quiet humming. The calm in his whisper made hopelessness settle like dust. Millie leaned on a railing and admitted she felt small beside assembly lines and siege memorials. Trudy said, "Tags show exits with no entries." John Jacob Jingleheimer-Schmidt said, "Desert spirits like warm cotton and quiet humming." Threadbare patience snapped between the pigs. Harmony argued that if ghosts could carry grief from a siege, they deserved therapy like anyone with a heavy story, and Garbanzo barked that therapy required goals and ghosts lacked grip. Arthur lifted a bundle of dryer lint and said he could trace fibers if they slowed down and listened. Millie, stuck between beliefs, only nodded as alarms and drills pounded like stubborn rain. Harmony said, "Grief deserves care even if it lingers." Garbanzo said, "Therapy needs goals, and ghosts can't hold them." Arthur said, "Slow down. I can trace fibers." Quick interlude for viewers. Thanks for watching this factory mystery unfold. If you're enjoying it, please like and subscribe to keep the story rolling. Drop a comment with the word "slop" so we know you're part of the night shift. Your support helps us keep the conga line moving. They forced calm into their steps and ran a test in the laundry bay. Millie sprinkled flour from Garbanzo's mash along the chute mouth, while Trudy folded blank socks as controls, and Harmony timed the suction arms with her clipboard stopwatch. August seized the test pair, and Arthur followed with a magnet one to find the socks stuck to a hidden conveyor behind the dryer wall, bound for a pouch feeder for slingshots. The culprit was a covert machine, not ghosts. Arthur said, "The socks are on a hidden conveyor headed to slingshot pouches." Harmony said, "Then we fixed the system, not spirits." Millie apologized to the camels for doubting their read of the room, and Harmony apologized to the building for accusing ghosts without evidence. Frank said integrity counted more than accuracy on the first try and that their care convinced him. Trudy nodded with a proud snort, and all 4 camels agreed to join the effort, showing their caravan cadence and uncanny textile tracking. Their teamwork gathered strength. Frank said, "Integrity counts more than first try accuracy." Trudy said, "We're in 15 steps. Perfect time." Arthur added one more fact from company parties. The chickens could not resist joining conga lines. He had seen Missy abandon a podium when 3 beats matched in a row, and Shad's feet betrayed him when a cowbell rang. Harmony mapped a plan. The camels would lay a steady rhythm. Garbanzo would amplify with moonshine jugs as percussion. Millie would route robots from drill mode to party mode when the tempo stabilized, and they would lure the chickens into a decommissioning bay and lock the controls. Their strategy targeted the weakness precisely. Arthur said, "They can't resist a conga." Harmony said, "Hooves set the beat, jugs carry it. Robots switch on the groove and the bay locks shut." The team assembled in the shadow of the security dais and turned a rehearsal into action. Trudy tapped a tempo on the concrete, while Frank and John Jacob Jingleheimer-Schmidt thumped water jugs in counterpoint. Garbanzo tuned his copper still to a hollow boom, and Millie primed the automation to recognize the rhythm as a switch signal. The dais lights swiveled toward the sound. Garbanzo said, "Hold that beat right there." Millie said, when it stabilizes, the robots switch. Missy stepped to the balcony to lead another arm drill, clutching the ledger like a scepter. Harmony raised her voice to say that safety was not fear with better branding. Stan tried to flood the room with a speech about duty so slick it squeaked, and Chad shuffled note cards that said remember the other notes and still lost his place. The beat kept pulsing. Harmony said, safety isn't fear with better branding. Stan said, duty demands discipline, listen up. Chad muttered, remember the other notes, where is that card? In the cafeteria above the floor, a human Italian pizza chef tossed dough in slow arcs, flour drifting like tiny comets, and hummed an old tune, while the light warmed his cheek. He spun the disc higher, catching it with calm wrists, and the dough billowed like a white moon. Down on the factory floor, the camels' rhythm swelled with the robot speakers, and the conga seeds began to wake. The building seemed to lean toward the cadence. The chef hummed, La 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 buona melodia. The turning point snapped like a rubber band. Chad's shoulders twitched, Stan's knees unlocked, and Missy's talons tapped 1, 2, 3. They could not resist the rhythm. Harmony stepped forward with open palms and swayed like anyone at a summer party, and a conga line formed with the chickens at the hungry center. The trap began to move. Chad said, just a step then another. Harmony said, keep the beat and follow. They led the wriggling conga line down the catwalk, past the control room, and into the decommissioning bay where Millie had cued a safety lock. Garbanzo swung the jug in steady rhythm, while the camels redirected the line with gentle bodies and calm eyes. The robots recognized the program tempo as the shutdown cue. The doors sealed, the dais went dark, the ledger lost its access, and the chickens' faces fell as the groove ended and their leverage evaporated. Millie said, now. Garbanzo said, hold that tempo, lock it in. Millie reversed the conveyors, sending socks back to their rightful bins and slingshot parts into scrap hoppers. Harmony took the intercom and announced that the council had abused fear and violated safety, and the oversight board, alerted by the audit, marched in to strip the chickens of badges and ledger. Missy, Chad, and Stan received full consequences, authority revoked, ledger archived as evidence, and a public month of window repair and apology rounds. Order returned by process, not panic. Harmony said, the council abused fear and violated safety. Oversight is here. An auditor said, badges and ledger, surrender them now. The factory exhaled. Workers dropped slingshots into collection bins, and robots returned to baking and mending, which matched their programming and the city's appetite. The camels paraded laundry back to lockers, while Garbanzo used the moonshine jug as a metronome for robot recalibration. Laughter followed the beat because it somehow worked. Garbanzo said, calibrate on the count 1, 2, 3. A worker said, I can't believe that works, but it does. The moonshine rivalry reached a warm fizz. Millie's version carried a clean citrus note from lemon peel rinses of her coils, while Garbanzo preferred a smoky hint from toasted corn. The camels hosted a blind taste in a quiet cafeteria. Harmony ruled that a blended batch won for community purposes, and they used some to loosen propaganda posters and oil-heavy gates that had stuck since the siege. Harmony said, the blend wins citrus and smoke together. Trudy said, let's peel the posters and free the gates. Harmony returned to the old argument and spoke gently. She said that ghosts had not stolen the socks, but their careful approach, testing and respect looked like therapy for a wounded system. Garbanzo rubbed his suspenders and said that if a machine could remember a siege, he could imagine a ghost wanting help. He apologized for mocking the idea. Harmony said, we practiced care like therapy, even without ghosts. Garbanzo said, if machines remember, maybe ghosts want help. Sorry for the jokes. The city breathed easier as rules changed. A new council formed with open hearings, and workers voted for stewards who fixed things instead of breaking them. The chickens were barred from office for 3 years, required to attend compassion training, and kept away from any equipment that launched anything. The lesson settled into policy. An announcer said, open hearings begin today. A clerk said, Launch equipment is off limits to former officials. To honor history without using it as a bludgeon, the factory dedicated a day to bread and safety. Robots rolled out loaves shaped like shields while bakers shared siege stories without shaming anyone into obedience. Millie tied her naval-blue kerchief a little tighter as if knotting a promise. The camels returned a final bundle of neatly folded socks, and Harmy tucked them away, while the trio walked the catwalk as partners who now argued for sport instead of survival. Millie said, "A promise, tied tight." Harmony said, "Socks home, heart steady." All the slop in this video was generated using AI. This notice is provided for transparency and does not celebrate the technology. If you found this story meaningful, please like and subscribe. And add a comment with the word slop to support more tales from the factory. Narrator said, like, subscribe, and comment slop to keep the line moving.